This podcast is on Chapter 2, which is Chemistry and Biochemistry. Let's look at some vocabulary words. Chemistry is the study of matter. Matter is anything that has mass and takes up space. Everything around you is made of matter. An atom is the basic unit of matter. If you lined up 100 million atoms, it would only be the width of your finger. When we look at atoms, we need to look at the subatomic particles. Those are the different parts of the atom. The nucleus contains protons and neutrons. It's where the atom has most of its mass. Protons are a single unit of positive electrical charge, and again, they are in the nucleus of the atom. Neutrons have no charge. They are electrically neutral, and they are also in the nucleus of the atom. Orbitals contain electrons that fly around the nucleus. The electrons have a negative charge. They are always moving, and they are very small in comparison to protons and neutrons. They are only about 1/2000th the size of a proton or a neutron. This is an atomic model that shows you the protons and neutrons in the nucleus and the negatively charged electrons that fly around the nucleus in orbitals. Elements are pure substances that consist entirely of one type of atom. They cannot be broken down. Some examples are oxygen, nitrogen, gold, carbon. The elements that are found in all living things are carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. Those four elements make up 96% of all living things. There are 21 others, and some other more common ones are phosphorus, sodium, potassium, and calcium, which make up about 3.5% of living things. An isotope is one of several forms of a single element. Each has the same number of protons but different numbers of neutrons. For example, carbon has several isotopes, including one that is radioactive, carbon-14. Carbon-12 is the most common form. Carbon-12 has 6 protons and 6 neutrons. Carbon-13 has 6 protons and 7 neutrons. And carbon-14 has 6 protons and 8 neutrons. That is radioactive and is actually used to date fossils and are also used in a diagnostic test called a PET scan. Compounds are a combination of 2 or more elements to form something new and with different properties. For example, hydrogen and oxygen combine to form water. Sodium and chloride combine to form salt. Molecules are the smallest unit of a compound. An example is water. Water has 1 oxygen and 2 hydrogens, ch2. But what holds compounds together? Bonds are strong magnetic forces that attract and hold atoms together to form compounds. An ionic bond occurs when there is a transfer or taking of electrons. When one electron in the outer orbital leaves and joins the outer orbital of a second atom. Covalent bonds are when the electrons are shared. Hydrogen bonds are not really bonds at all. They're a weak attraction that occur between the positive charged hydrogen of one molecule and the negative charge of another molecule. Water has hydrogen bonds which connect 2 water molecules together. In fact, each water molecule is attracted to 4 other water molecules via hydrogen bonds. So let's talk more about water. Water is a polar molecule. Oxygen has 8 protons and hydrogen has 1 proton. Electrons are pulled towards the oxygen end of water and spend more time there. This gives the oxygen end of a water molecule a slight negative charge and the hydrogen end a positive charge. Cohesion and adhesion are properties that are caused by polarity. Cohesion is the attraction between the same type of molecules. So when 2 water molecules are attracted together via hydrogen bonds, that's an example of cohesion. Cohesion is stronger in water than in any other substance. Adhesion is when two different types of molecules are attracted. For example, water can stick to the outside of a glass. Water can stick to the xylem inside a tree. Adhesion and cohesion help to maintain the characteristics within cells, and they allow for proper function to occur. As I said before, plants use both to help to bring water up from the roots to exit the leaves. Another property of water is surface tension, and this is also caused by the hydrogen bonds and cohesion between water molecules. Surface tension is really defined as the difficulty it is to break the surface of a liquid, and basically cohesion creates what is like an invisible film on the surface of water. It's also what gives the water a dome shape, like when you dropped water on pennies. pH also involves water because a small percentage of water molecules are always breaking apart to form hydrogen ions and hydroxide ions. The pH scale is used to measure the concentration of hydrogen ions in a solution. If something is basic or alkaline, it has fewer hydrogen ions. If something is neutral, it has an equal number of hydrogen and hydroxide ions. And if something is acidic, it has more hydrogen ions than hydroxide ions. Buffers are substances that resist change to pH. They are very important in biology to maintain homeostasis or a stable, healthy environment inside an organism. Carbon is another very special element in biology and in nature. Anything that contains carbon and that is produced by a cell is considered organic. Carbon has 6 electrons. The outer shell has 4 electrons. Carbon makes 4 covalent bonds with other atoms. Hydrocarbons are compounds made only of carbon and hydrogen. They are highly flammable. This is methane, which is the simplest hydrocarbon. It has 1 carbon and 4 hydrogens, ch2. All organic molecules are made of monomers. Those monomers are covalently bonded together to produce polymers. The monomer is a single molecular unit, like a car in a train. The polymer are made of a string of monomers, so they are long chains of those single units. So the entire train would be an example of a polymer. Each individual car would be an example of a monomer. There are 4 macromolecules of life. All organisms are made of 4 different types of organic compounds: carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. Let's look at carbohydrates first. Carbohydrate is made up of sugar molecules. So the sugars are the monomers, and when they string together to make a larger carbohydrate, those are the polymers. Sugars contain carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, and it's always in a 1:2:1 ratio. Glucose is an example of a sugar, as is fructose, which is the sugar found in fruit. Simple carbohydrates are the monomers. They're also called monosaccharides, and again, glucose and fructose are examples. Complex carbs are the polymers. It's when simple carbohydrates join together to form long chains. There are 3 or 4 major types of complex carbs. One of them is starches. Examples of starches are wheat, rice, corn, and potatoes. Another is glycogen. It's how animals store glucose by linking it together to form large molecules of glycogen and storing it in their muscles and liver. Cellulose is what cell walls of plants are made out of, and it is actually what makes up the fiber in your diet. Lipids are the second group of macromolecules. and they are fats, oils, and waxes. They also contain carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Their major function is long-term energy storage. They are found in things like whales and seals and are considered blubber and used for insulation. Waxes are lipids that are found in plants, and they cover plants to prevent the plants from drying out. Another type of lipid is steroids, and even though you associate steroids with illegal drugs, natural steroids include estrogen and testosterone, and actually cholesterol, which stabilizes cell membranes, is also an example of a cholesterol. Proteins are the third group of macromolecules. A protein is made of monomers called amino acids. There are 20 different amino acids in nature. There are 3 parts to an amino acid: the amino group, the carboxyl group, and the R group. All amino acids have an amino group, which is a nitrogen bonded to 2 hydrogens, a carboxyl group, which is a carbon bonded to an oxygen and to an OH, and the R group is going to vary in each of the amino acids, and that's going to give the amino acids their specific characteristics. Proteins also can be used for long-term energy storage. Almost all of an organism's functions are maintained or controlled by proteins. Muscles, hairs, and many parts of an organism are constructed of proteins. The final macromolecule are nucleic acids. DNA and RNA are the 2 different types of nucleic acids, and nucleic acids carry genetic information. Chemical reactions occur when bonds are broken and atoms are rearranged. This is an example of a chemical reaction. This is actually a process called cellular respiration. The reactants are what you start with, and the products are what you wind up with. The reactants are always on the left, and the products are always on the right. In order for a reaction to occur, energy is needed. This is known as activation energy, and one way to speed up a reaction is to lower its activation energy. If the activation energy is not reached, the reaction will not occur. Enzymes speed up chemical reactions. They are made of proteins. They lower the activation energy that is required for a reaction to occur. For example, lactase is an enzyme that speeds up the breakdown of lactose, and catalase is an enzyme that breaks down hydrogen peroxide in cells.